Look at this idiot. Seems like he's been here forever. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Are you almost done? Well, it's about time. You look pretty worn out, old boy. But it was a lot of work, so I'll give you that. Let's go take a look at where you started. Here it is, hidden behind the Salem County Historical Society. Just a little one-room log cabin moved here about 20 years ago and pieced back together. Nothing really special about it. From a distance, everything looks alright. Maybe the roof shingles need replaced. That's about it. Closer up, though, the serious work is pretty clear. A few of the logs are in pretty bad shape. Modern Portland cement mixes are a death sentence to any historic building. But look at that cement. That's probably the worst thing about this entire building. You should really start there. Break out the cement bit by bit and relieve some of the stress on the timbers. As the wood expands and contracts from the moisture, that cement just doesn't move, and it causes a lot of stress. Besides that, any moisture that does soak into the logs is barely able to escape through the mortar. It stays in the logs and rots them out. It has a similar effect on old bricks. You spent the last few months burning shells for a new line mortar mix. It's strong enough to hold up against the weather, but not rigid enough to damage the logs. In 20 or 30 years, they may have to refill these gaps, but that's better than replacing logs every 20 years. It's not too difficult and only takes a few days to replace all the old concrete. Now, more challenging will be replacing the timbers. You got the first one down, God knows how. Putting up the replacement is a challenge, and you're lucky to have a little help on this one. You build a set of rudimentary steps so you can kind of walk the timber into place. Inside that sign. Whoa! Careful. All right? Yeah. Set it up on his edge. My way, Sal. Right there. You get it close, fire the help so you don't have to pay him anymore. Use a jack and a little muscle to get it into place. It's not quite making it. Chisel out the slots a little bit, go around the ceiling rafters. And it's up. You have to trim out for the door a little bit. But you'll come back tomorrow and have another day. Now you have a timber on the side that has to go. You cut it out with a chainsaw like the first one. Free it from the ceiling with wooden wedges. Carry it out one piece at a time. The condition of these logs was definitely not the best. The side timber, well, you're on your own. The same steps, lifting the heavy timber a couple feet at a time. Eventually, with enough cussing and sweating, you get it pretty close. You left some timber on the end of that last one, just so you have something to set this new timber on. Trim it a little bit. Get it up on there. slide it into place. See, that wasn't so bad. You could have done the other timber alone if you weren't so lazy. It looks pretty good. You'll have to adjust it a little bit, but it'll be just fine. Well, you got rain coming, buddy. Seems like rain is always coming this year. The timber down by the door is in pretty bad shape. For this bottom timber, you're going to use white oak. The old one is so rotten that it cuts almost like butter. And it flies to dust as you knock it out. Trim the new timber to make a better fit. Beat it into place. Man, you really shouldn't do that. Using a sledgehammer to beat that timber. You'll bruise the hell out of that wood. Ugh, never do that again. But at least you got it in there. Things are coming together pretty well. The new timbers look a lot like the old ones. Once the color changes, you'll not be able to tell them apart very easily. You've got some space to fill between the logs, but with more rain coming, you better get something in there. And fast. That'll work for now. All the new timbers are in, and the mortar seems to be setting up well. It doesn't look that much different from a distance, but close up, the mortar has a very different texture. It's curing nicely, it's good and strong, inside and out. Now we got to get started on this roof. These shingles only lasted about 20 years, and that's pretty bad. There are a few reasons for that. First of all, the shingles were tight against the roof substrate. Wooden shingles need a little bit of space under them. Without it, they'll eventually soak up water and will constantly be damp, causing them to rot. Another problem, tree branches are way too close to the roof. A tree branch, even a twig, will eventually damage even the best roofing material. Finally, and this is just a theory on my part, but western red cedar is too soft to last very long. Maybe it's rot resistant, but if it becomes so brittle that it just falls to pieces in 15 or 20 years, it doesn't really matter. A good roof will wear out long before it rots, but this roof actually did both. White oak. It's rot resistant, but it's also incredibly tough. There's a reason barrels are made out of it. White oak is still the best material around for these situations. You don't keep a lot of shingles on hand, so you'll have to split them as you go. A few hundred or 1,000 at a time. Ripping off the old roof is nasty work. The old shingles just break apart in your hand. They're so brittle. White oak won't be this brittle for a few decades at least. Well, I hope you're dead by the time these need replaced. I guess we'll all be dead if they last long enough. Now put down some strips of wood on the ceiling, driving the nails into the rafters underneath. Now start laying the shingles. 2 along the bottom. You have 18-inch shingles to leave a 6-inch exposure. Using this method, every point on the roof is covered by 3 shingles. Make sure every single nail is covered by the next shingle. Some people say that 1 nail per shingle is the best. You know better, I hope. 2 nails is better. Shingles split like these don't swell and shrink nearly as much as sawn shingles. 2 nails hammered until the head is barely touching the shingle. That's good. It takes a long time to make 2,500 shingles. It takes more time and energy to make them than to actually put them on the roof. But brother, they'll last. You can put the cap on now. Your arms are sore from making thousands of shingles. All that repetitive movement really played hell on your arms. It looks like you can barely swing that hammer. But you're too close to leave for the day. Just get it done. While you were busy working on the roof, the society saw another timber they wanted replaced. Well, that's not a problem. You'll do the same as you did before. Cut the old timber, beat it out with a hammer. Copy the notch on the new white oak timber. Make the new timber a little bit smaller than the old one so you can get it into place. Now slowly work it in. That's it. Don't beat directly on the wood this time. And don't forget to fill in the spaces with the lime mortar. You're out of mortar you burned a few months ago? Don't worry about it. Just burn some more. You don't need too much, and burning it in a kiln would be a bit of an overkill. Why not try burning it in your wood stove? If you're just lounging about drinking tea one night, burning firewood for heat, it's a waste. So, burn some lime. Split the firewood from trees you took down last winter. They'll be dry enough to burn, but if they're a little bit damp, that's even better. You want the fire to burn brisk, but kind of slow. A slow burn makes a better lime product. Now you want to split the wood into wide, flat pieces. Once the fire is going pretty strong, throw a couple pounds of shells on top of the wide chunks of firewood every few hours. There you go. It looks like a mess, but if you screen it, you'll be alright. Screen out the ash, put the shells in a 5-gallon bucket, use one with a crack in it. There you are. Dip it down into a container of water, swish it around for a few seconds, lift it up, let the water drain out, and dump the shells into a metal bucket. This water activates the quicklime, but also washes away most of the ash that you missed with the screen. Now you wait. After a few minutes, things start to happen. The shells turn into a hydrated lime powder. Add some more water to turn it into lime putty and you're set. Get yourself a few buckets of sand for mortar and you'll be ready to tackle the last of the mortar work. Use a mix of 3 sand to 1 lime. Mix it well. But wait, don't tell me you've forgotten our policy. We never use exterior lime mortar if there's a chance of freezing temperatures over the next 7 days. Now you tell me. If you can't use it today, don't worry about it. Put it in a container and keep it away from the air, and you can use it when it warms up a bit. There you are. You can come back next week if it warms up and adjust the door and window frame and touch up the mortar a bit. It's pretty much done. Except for the roof though, it looks almost exactly the same as when you started. The timbers along the ground will change color very quickly. The roof is already starting to change color. Once the roof is thoroughly dry, you should come back and oil it. That actually feels like a major accomplishment. You've just installed the most authentic, most accurate representation of a mid-19th century roof practically anywhere. You don't like how the ends aren't all square? Not really. Well, don't worry about that. That's actually a very authentic feature of lower class roofing. You can compare it to historic photos and see exactly what you were aiming at. And, buddy, you got it right. You have to remember that you're dealing with thousands of shingles. Today, you could just take your miter saw and cut everything square. But back then, well, they would have had to use hand saws. And no one who valued his time was going to waste it sawing the ends of shingles for a roof. Especially if that roof was on an outbuilding or a lower class home like this one. You should be thrilled with the results. A project like this takes maybe 3 weeks for a one-man operation. It takes much longer, months and months, to find and prepare the right materials. And that, old boy, is what separates you from other contractors. You're in it for the long haul, the saving of history, not a quick and easy buck. Don't sit down too long. You've got a spring house over in Delaware waiting for you.